Well, hello, you guys, and welcome back to LittleVFarm. It is end of February, basically, now, and we are down in the basement because it is still cold outside. There is still some snow on the ground, but that doesn't mean that our garden season hasn't already kicked off here. About a month ago, we officially started all these seeds behind us, and we want to walk you guys through our plans from, day one, which was officially a month ago, through the next couple of months and walk you through our tool that we use and how that's helping us stay organized and just some of our plans overall for our garden this year. So this is the Excel document we created. It has everything on here and I have everything color coordinated by date. We also have transplant date on here, maturity date, whether we plan to grow this inside, meaning inside the greenhouse, or outside in the beds directly, as well as if we started it. And then we do have the tray location as well. I don't really like tracking on the actual trays what seed is in what cell, so we're using the dock for that as well. So now we want to show you guys what we have already sown and why we picked them, some of the different varieties, how we decided to plant them, and then some of the specifics of the, their actual tray. So this top tray is going to be kind of my favorite tray realistically right now. It has our herbs, it has leafy greens, and I want to go through kind of each one and talk about some of my favorites with you. In the very first row here, we have thyme. That is going to be one of my favorite herbs to eat. I think thyme and oregano are probably our two biggest herbs we go through. So I have the thyme in the first one. The second two here are actually going to be poppies. They've come up a little bit in there, but we put some poppies in there. We did poppies last year and we just fell in love with them. They're like these soft little delicate coffee filter looking flowers, but they were so beautiful. So we decided we would do them again this year and see how they do. So they're working. They sprouted, so we're excited.
I'm really excited to see some of the flowers that we had last year in the greenhouse specifically. We did have one bed outside that was really pretty, and we had marigolds throughout the outside garden for sure, but the inside garden just had such unique pretty flowers. And I think the reason why they were able to sustain so long into the season and give blooms is because the greenhouse is so much warmer. And so that's great that they had that environment. I want to try some outside next year for sure, or this year for sure. But it's just great to see some of those colorful, they don't bloom for as long as some of the weedier flowers like the marigolds, but the blooms when they are
so beautiful.
In bloom are so beautiful, colorful. They bring so much joy to us as we go into the garden and decide to work in them or just hang out and just check them out. They're just fun to go and look at.
I literally felt like the greenhouse was like Fern Gully last year for any of my 90s babies. But it literally, there'd be butterflies floating around and you have these tall poppies sticking up and all the tomatoes, and it was just really cool. So
the different pollination it brings in also. It's just so, I didn't think about that, but it was just so cool to see.
Yeah, we did a lot of petunias last year too. We did a lot of petunias and it was just, I loved it. Okay, so we have thyme, we have the poppies, and then we have oregano is the next one. Like I said, oregano is our second most popular herb that we use. So that's going to be in the next two.
What I can't wait for with the oregano is just how much the scent, you can just smell it in the garden. There's certain things that you just look forward to smelling in the garden. The basil is another herb that I just look forward to smelling in the garden.
The thyme and the oregano, the reason I like eating them, but I like growing them because they are spreaders. Like the varieties we have, they spread across the bed and they kind of create bed coverage. And so we'll put them in the tomato beds and they spread all over the bed, kind of covering the base of the bed. And you just can reach in and just grab a handful out. And it's like a weed, but it's delicious.
Very much cut and come again, like you said. And it's nice to know that we're starting them so early in the season and be able to continue to harvest them throughout and as long as we need to, into the season. We can cut them out if we want to, but it's really going to be in a shadier part of the garden. We already planned the placement of these herbs, and it's really just intentional to be in a place that we don't have the ability to grow things that need full sun, but these guys will enjoy it when we are in the peak of summer and it's really hard for some of the shadier herbs or the shade loving herbs to be successful.
Yeah, it's every once in a while, I feel like, especially as a new gardener, because again, we're not experts, this is only our second growing season, you need an attaboy. You need to just put a seed in the ground that is going to make you feel like you know what you're doing. And I feel like thyme and oregano are both those things. They are very successful and you're just like, wow, look at me, I grew that. So that's what we have in there. And then after the oregano, we have two rows of lemon balm. So Andrew and I both have ADHD and we have chaos brains, and lemon balm is amazing for like mental clarity and just like organization of the brain. It's great for teas. We'll dry it and use it all the time. So I have 2 rows of that growing.
I just wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit. I don't really have social media, but I do have, just my community and the people I talk to every day. And even, talking to people at work, it is something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
And, it's just to know that there's natural remedies and things that you can grow in your backyard or on your windowsill.
A few things like lemon balm, and then I was going to say our next one after the lemon balm is spearmint. Both of those we will put in pots. They are very invasive, and as much as we love certain things to grow like crazy, when I say they grow like crazy, I mean you'll never get rid of them. So like our lemon balm and our mint will keep contained to pots, or we'll have them in a bed that we know that we don't care if it takes over the whole bed, but that's not something we would put directly in the ground unless we planned on it taking over the whole space. So just keep in mind, if you like those, they'll be everywhere.
I also remember last year we had this like chocolate mint that smelled like Girl Scout cookies.
Oh my gosh.
It was so wonderful to smell. It was just like that scent. I loved it.
I made some tea for us yesterday and I put just a smidgen of it in there, but if I definitely want to get that again.
Yeah.
We got that at one of the greenhouses last year. Yep. And that'll be one of the things I definitely get again from the greenhouse, because when you rub it, it literally smells like a Thin Mint cookie, like a Girl Scout Thin Mint or like an Andy's candy or whatever. So good. Oh. But yeah, so after the lemon balm, we have our spearmint, and then after the spearmint, we have 2 rows of chamomile. For the same reason, we do a lot of teas, and we love the way chamomile tastes. We like the way it smells.
One thing that you end up learning is different insects and pollinators need different landing pads, essentially.
Yeah.
And the wider you can cast your net, the more you're going to get in. And it was just nice to have some big stable flowers and some little delicate ones as well. So we got monarchs coming in. We got beautiful,
all different types.
All types of bees, all types of,
And then the next 2 rows, we switch into leafy greens. So we'll show you guys in a little bit. We do have an entire tray of leafy greens. These 2 rows here were just like an initial thought. And then we realized that is not enough, not what we need. And so one of those lessons we learned immediately was, hang on, 2 rows of leafy greens is not going to do anything for us for the whole year. Let's go ahead and get a whole tray started. And
really with things like lettuce and spinach, they grow and you can have cut and come agains, but you want to be able to succession sow those so that you can get multiple harvests at different times of the year. Normally, you can expect to receive some kind of harvest out of your lettuce every 6 weeks from when you sow them. So if we sowed these a month ago, and we expect to get through the 6 heads of lettuce or whatever within 2 weeks, we'll want another harvest within the next 2 weeks. And that's what we did. We sowed some more the 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
These are going to be used, if they are all successful, to feed not only us, but our animals outside as well, which is going to be fantastic. It's just more nutrition and more feed for everyone.
Like Andrew said, we have a lot we'll go through, but these 2 rows are, the first one here is going to be spinach. It's Olympia spinach. And then the last one here is just going to be like a red lettuce, a salad bowl lettuce. Both those are doing really good, but nowhere near enough. But yeah, so this is kind of everything we have in the first tray. And then, Andrew, can you kind of explain the setup on these?
Yeah. So just to kind of touch on our setup for all of our lights, we definitely put these together over the course of a few seasons and prioritized our sowings and how we laid everything out based on our what we've seen in past seasons, what we're trying new this year, and what's tried and true, essentially. Some of our lights aren't as strong as others, so we want to make sure that we're investing into the right plants and the right trays. We have this one up here because we wanted our herbs to be successful this year. It's something that we use medicinally. We use it cosmetically. We use it for
eating,
edibly. We use it for a lot of different things to consume. So it's really important for us to have a successful herb garden, and so it takes high priority in our in what we plan and how we do things. So as far as domes go, we do use domes for most of our sowings. Retain heat for some of your things like peppers and tomatoes that actually need that heat to germinate. And what the trays or what the domes do is, if as the heat kind of moves up into the air and evaporates, it keeps it in the dome,
like
and
greenhouse effect.
yeah, like a greenhouse
Yeah.
effect. So it keeps the moisture in there and gives it a better shot at germination and staying wet at the surface. But it can create mold issues, and we've seen that here even on a few of our trays. And if we do see that, we'll just take off the dome, put a fan on the kind of close to the surface of the tray, and have it dry out for a couple of days, or sometimes even a day. It'll be gone.
That's fine.
But that's important to know, is when to take off those domes. And typically, you want to grow things that have similar germination rates in terms of when you'll start to see germination. So yeah, some things can take 7 days, 14 days, sometimes even longer. If you have a good plan and you can have everything in the same cell tray germinate around the same timing, then once you see that germination rate get to that 90% rate-ish, you can take off that dome and don't have to look back. I don't suggest keeping the dome on after you see germination, even the smallest amount. That's all it's there for, is to keep the moisture at the surface. But other than that, it can really create some mold issues. So, working in places like basements and, in places where it needs to be moist anyway, you're going to have mold issues. You got to be careful with that stuff. So it's easy to get rid of, but you'll have to just stay close to it.
So you guys kind of get our setup here. Like Andrew said, we have a bunch of different lights, and we'll walk you through some of those. My mom actually for Christmas got Andrew a few more grow lights on our bottom shelf here, so we were able to do even more, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
So now we're going to go ahead and go over our second tray here. This one is going to be basically the exact opposite growing process of the top one, because this is going to be a lot of peppers, and the peppers just kind of require realistically a lot of the opposite of what these herbs require. But we'll kind of go through what we have in here and walk you through all of the seeds we planted. This very first row here was kind of a complete dud, but we knew that was going to happen. It was some old asparagus seeds that we had, and we figured we'd try to get some started because we do want to have some long-term plans to put some asparagus around the property, because it takes years to grow, honestly. But these old seeds were dead, so we didn't get anything out of it. But honestly, our thought was they're either dead in a packet, or we can try and see if we get even one, to germinate. So we figured we'd give it a shot, but they didn't do great. And then in the next one, we do have a bell pepper. So this is going to be a California Wonder. The California Wonder is just like a beautiful red bell pepper. Honestly, we plan to make our own paprika out of it. I feel like that was a big social media thing last year. Like, a lot of people learned that paprika is just dehydrated red bell pepper. And so it is. And so we're going to make our own. We do a lot of that. I do a lot of our own spices. So we're growing those to eat, but also to make our own paprika. So after the California Wonder, the next one is going to be its exact opposite. It is another bell pepper. It's the King Arthur, which is a beautiful green bell pepper. So same thing. It's just like a really mild green bell pepper, and I'll probably cook with it every single day. It'll probably be something that we eat every single day. So we did 2 rows of that one, just because we really do eat so much peppers. We also, I pickle a lot of peppers. I add them into our chili. It's just one of our number one use things. So a good mild snacker pepper is huge. And then, so the next one after that is going to be one of my favorites. It is the Trident Poblano pepper. So that one does have a little bit of a kick. We do like spice, but I would say realistically, you get to a max of how much heat you can have in a meal. And so the Poblano is great because it's huge. The peppers on a Poblano pepper get, 6 to 9 inches, like these massive peppers. So you get quite a bit of pepper per harvest, which I think is really cool. But they also have a good kick to them. And I love using poblano peppers in sauces. So in ranches and blue cheese sauces, cream sauces, it just gives it a really good smoky peppery kick. And then after the poblano, we have 2 rows of jalapenos. That was our number one eater pepper we had last year. We got quite a bit. And so, of course, we want to do more of those. Yeah. We decided to do the F1 seeds for those again this year. Basically, the F1s are not GMO seeds. They're not genetically modified. They just have really strong parents. Basically, they take 2 plants that have really strong genes, and they plant them together to make a new seed, a baby seed, that is going to be just stronger. They usually have higher yields. They're more disease resistant. So we have the 2 rows of the jalapenos. And then next we have 2 rows of the Hungarian yellow hot wax peppers. And those are because we already ate through everything we had from last year. We like those a lot. We pickle those and then put them on pizzas or in tacos or whatever. And we already ate through all of them that I had canned from last year. So we did 2 rows of that.
Pickled peppers just go fast, it feels like, in our house.
Yeah. for sure. I just love them because I like making them really, we make them from scratch and they're very easy to make. And it's like the easiest canning thing you can do. Great way to preserve them. And they, can be just sitting on the shelf ready to go. So I love them.
Yeah.
And then the last row on this one is the only tomato we have planted so far. And the only reason we did it, they were a pack of survival seeds, the brand survival seeds. And I like them a lot. They sent us a bunch of seeds last year.
Yeah, they were fun.
And they've done really well. But because they were from last year or sent to us last year, they are on their way out. And we just figured they're going to die in a packet or they can grow into a tomato. And so the last row here is just a mixture of the heirloom mix from the survival seeds, because we did enjoy having one or two heirlooms. Like Andrew said, last year we only had one or two, but it was really cool to have. So we did do a row of those as well. Okay, so the first two trays were kind of like our most important trays. They were the herbs and the tomato, or the herbs and the peppers, and those are just the things we spend the most money on throughout the year. So those, like Andrew said, are like our money trays. And then the next two trays are onions. And that is because same thing. We go through a lot of onions. We buy all of our onions usually in bulk from the Amish. We'll get like big boxes of them, get bushels of them or whatever. But it just seems so silly because they're so inexpensive at seed to do that. So we're really trying to grow them ourselves.
It can really be difficult sometimes to split things like peppers or tomatoes because they have a complex root ball. With things like onions, it's really a single root going down. So it's easy to pluck them out and put them into a new cell and just kind of save an empty cell from being not utilized. Whereas with these guys, like we said, we may do a little bit more thinning versus splitting because with the complex root zones, it really can be hard and it can cause a little bit of disturbance and transplant shock when you want to move them and separate them like that.
So that's everything we have right now. That is kind of our max inside space that we have for seeds. And so what our plan is to move in, like we said on the document, we're going to start next weekend with another round of seeds and hopefully take some of this stuff out into the greenhouse. So next week's video, we're going to walk you guys through hardening off these seeds, getting them outside, getting some new seeds put into cells. And I think we might go as far as transplanting some of this lettuce directly into some of the beds in the greenhouse next week.
Sure.
Yeah,
it's exciting to get some of this stuff outside as the temperature warms up now. We had, I know many of us in the U.S. had some crazy weather over the past few weeks. We had some sub-zero temperatures, and it was just rough not being able to go outside. We had a foot of snow last week, so just a lot of things kind of preventing us from getting sorted out there. But there are many things that you can do to prepare for your growing season inside, and that starts with a good plan. And so that's what we wanted to share with you guys here today.
Yeah, it's like it's officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're at least planning, and getting ready for the new season. And it's a lot to think about. And so we're here as a resource for you guys, any questions that you have, but also, as you face those questions, we love to be able to answer them and bring them up in these videos to bring them to the masses and see what you guys think. It very much becomes, you have to do it a certain way. You can't do it this way. You need to do it this way. And I just like to learn from you guys the different ways you're doing it, because it really does show that, anything grows if you try. And even though it might look different, it can still grow. And so I like to just kind of push those barriers here. And, we're just big on giving it a shot and seeing what works for us and, sharing that with you guys and what doesn't work for us so you can learn from our mistakes. So we dumped a lot on you guys today. We obviously went through our entire Excel document. We walked through our entire plan and how we plan to get all of the seeds out. And then obviously we walked you through what we already have planted and then our light setup and heat setup in the basement. So next week, you guys need to come back so we can go over our new sowing. We're going to do our March 1st sowing in our next video. We're also going to get these onions thinned and moved around, and then potentially get that lettuce into the beds out in the greenhouse. And then obviously that just means that spring is around the corner, and we are going to be having videos weekly for you guys with all the different projects we have going on. So we're super excited to share that with you. We appreciate you guys spending so much time with us today and just, supporting us through this journey. We want to hear what you guys have going on, and we just want to support and lift each other up during this garden season. It is exciting right now, but we know when we are knee deep in like deer and bugs and, our plants are wilting, we're going to be exhausted and just really need to lean on each other. So please let us know in the comments how we can continue to support you guys as well. And thank you so much. Until next time, don't forget our motto here at Little V Farm: anything grows if you try.